My name is Rina. I'm a mother of two girls. My first daughter is Jade, 15 years old, and Bumi, the little one, is 15 months old. I came to see you when I was at the point where there were certain actions or dynamic that I noticed between me and my older daughter. How certain simple action that she did really triggered me, and then I found myself acting like a teenager, and that somehow I could see this from a third person perspective. When I said I was acting like a teenager, I observed that when I felt triggered, and I started to, probably I felt rejected in that case, and then I started to act like with anger, or maybe trying to make her feel guilty or bad. Yeah. And in the end, instead of being the mother that maturely trying to contain that experience and guide her, I ended up saying spiteful things. I ended up regretting that because we felt further away instead of closer. Yeah. And then I felt like I failed because it was an opportunity for me to guide her about things that could be done differently. But then when I was acting like that, I lost the opportunity to guide her as her mom. I felt quite confused and guilty. What happened during the session that I really appreciated, and it surprised me a little bit because I've done a lot of therapy and also a lot of parenting workshops or courses. But it was the first time that I was guided to see that it was linked to certain dynamic that I had with my sister when I was younger, and then to then also be able to change perspective during the session, to look at it from a third person perspective as if I was looking at the dynamic, but also to look at it from my sister's perspective. What I appreciated as well at that time, I began to feel a lot of softness and warmth and a lot of space in my chest because I felt a lot of dense energy in my chest right before the session. It was a very valuable insight. How beautiful it is to realize that life always provided that curriculum through our child or partner. This is the thing you need to learn right now. Thank you for guiding me through realizing that. Thank you. I felt really held and easy, and that you were there very mutually. For me, that's very important in a session where a facilitator can see not so much always on my side, but then it's like neutrality. After the session, I noticed that when she would express she preferred to be somewhere else than be with me. That's normally my trigger point. And then after the session, I was able, it's almost like things could go more in slower motion. When I started to feel the normal sensation coming up, I had more gap between that when that arises and my action. So therefore, I was able to recognizing that in myself and then challenge myself like, how about if we try it this way this time and see what comes up. And and it's interesting, almost the charge was less and less. There was more space, yeah. The response, it varies. But interestingly, in one of the instances, my daughter actually said, "Oh, Mama, it doesn't mean that I don't want to be with you." I didn't say anything because it's all internal work. And I was just like, "Oh, of course. What time do you want to go? And then what are you guys going to do? It sounds fun." She was like, "Oh, I would like to spend time with you too. Maybe tomorrow we can do this." It felt so sweet. I felt I was acting like a mature adult.
And how beautiful is that she responded in a different way, and she really noticed. I'm getting a sense that in what you're sharing, that she, because you didn't react in a way that you maybe used to have in the past or used to in the past, she had awareness of what you were really feeling as opposed to the trigger she felt previously and the emotions surrounding that.
It makes me realize how attuned they are to our inner state.
You're so right. And I also just want to normalize that with teenagers, they are meant to seek out other adults to learn from, not just parents,
Yeah.
but other adults. They gain wisdom and insight from them. And it's insight and wisdom that sometimes we're not able to give them, and they
Yeah.
might just seek for a different perspective. So normal. So I want you to know that.
Thank you for mentioning that because I see this for myself. I had my favorite auntie, my favorite uncle, and then I had my favorite friend of my mom. And I know that each relationship offered very different dynamic and certain things I wouldn't tell my mom and I would tell her friend and then stuff like that. So yes, I want my daughter to have them all too. It's part of her individuation and becoming herself. Yeah. And that also doesn't mean we love one person more, right? Just different relating. I think the biggest tangible result, the ability to have more awareness when it's happening, right? Because I think what I experienced before that was, let's say with my head, cognitively, I understand this, but when it's happening, it's very hard to bring myself out of the trigger reaction. And then the big win after the session was I'm one step closer to having more awareness. When the instances happen again, I felt like I have more space, but sometimes it's not always like that, right? But then in percentage, it's becoming more. Like the awareness is more. Like I said, there is more successes, yeah, than those days when the trigger feels a little more maybe stronger or the trigger gets its way. So you sent me the attachment play suggestion, but I ended up doing it with Boomy more than with her because she's been busy. She goes to her dad. Like at the moment, we have 1 week with me, 1 week with her dad, and then now I'm in New York and I left her because she's doing her IGCSE. When I received the list, I was like, she's always there. I've been doing it with Boomy, and honestly, this is quite interesting. Some of it is very simple. And I think for me, I'm just noticing more myself because when I heard the word play, I feel a little bit intimidated because I don't think I'm very good at playing. Normally play is not my department, right? Play is my husband's department. So when I saw that, I think the biggest thing for me is just wow, I actually can play with my kids or with Boomy.
I love that. The idea of play was also intimidating for me, and it's
Yeah.
something we can grow into over time.
Yeah.
How we play or not play depends on how we were played with as children, and
Yeah.
most of us probably did not get as much play as we really would have liked.
Yeah.
So I think that is normal.
In my culture, when I grew up, my parents didn't really play with me, but we were just let out. Like you go to the field, you go to the river. That's how we played. So yeah, so I completely, I am never, I didn't experience or modeled having parents playing with kids. And then, yeah, I thought parents was just doing all of the serious things. I feel inspired and content. I would say this work is, as I said to you, I've done some therapy work and also some parenting courses before, and your work feels like a combination of both. Every parent would benefit. It's interesting how you bring it back to where it might come from and how to be aware to have to bring that awareness more in our day-to-day interaction with the children.
Thank you. What would you say to parents who are not used to getting support with parenting because they think they should do it on their own and figure it out?
Part of it is probably the because a lot of parent friends that I have, their relationship with therapy support or like it means that you fail. There is some sort of pathology, right? I would say the things I would tell them, I do that all the time. It's really one of the best things for modern parenting that I don't think my parents had access to or thought it was available. So now we have it. Don't miss it. At least try for once and see if it might be giving you value in your parenting.
Yeah, I so agree with you. When it comes to things like playing tennis or getting good at a sport,
Yeah.
about hiring a coach or having someone to support them
Yeah.
because they just want to get better and have a shortcut to result. Parenting is no different. If we're
Yeah.
struggling, there's no shame. It tells a lot about someone,
Mhm.
how they internalize that, and if
Yeah.
they're willing to reach out for support, the sky's the limit.
I also understand in my journey in working with coaches and therapies and support, it's not like you would try and then you would find the person that fit immediately. Sometimes it takes time, and I would say it might be a bit risky when you this is something a bit vulnerable. I can understand that part, Because if you find a tennis coach that doesn't fit, yeah, it's just tennis, but this is something so vulnerable. Yes, to have a chemistry session, to feel the energy.
So I feel honored that you trusted me with all the things you're going through. And I'm really glad it's been helpful for you.
Thank you so much, Nick. But also the way you hold the space and the way you are, I think it's, yeah, I feel very nurtured and supported.